Few places loom larger in Army lore than where we are gathered today, the one and only Fort Bragg, the one and only Fort Bragg.
That is the very start of what became an incredibly unhinged speech by Donald Trump at Fort Bragg Fort in North Carolina, where, as we'll see, after a lot of incoherent rambling, Donald Trump goaded U.S. Army troops not only into booing the free press that was there, what he calls the fake news, he goaded them into cheering for Civil War American enemies like Robert E. Lee. And we'll show you that in a second. This all, of course, though, coming hot off the heels of Donald Trump mobilizing federal troops, federalizing the National Guard in California. It's all being made even more dystopian as we are approaching the Kim Jong-un style military parade that Donald Trump is having this Saturday that just so happens to be his birthday. And here he is earlier today actually promoting that parade with a rather ominous threat.
We won the war, and we're the only country that didn't celebrate it. And we're going to be celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, you know, this is people that hate our country. But they will be met with very heavy force.
But here is today at Fort Bragg. Trump was actually introduced by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who had this to say to rile the troops up. Take a listen.
Standards, accountability, readiness, training, warfighting, lethality. We're not a college or a university. We're not interested in your woke garbage and your political correctness. We're warfighters who close with and destroy the enemy on behalf of our nation when we come home.
And of course, it wouldn't be a speech from Donald Trump at Fort Bragg without Donald Trump starting off the speech by having to brag about the name Fort Bragg.
But remember, it was only that little brief moment that it wasn't called Fort Bragg. It was by the Biden administration, not Trump. I had nothing to do with it. We got it changed. We said, you know, I came here numerous times and they kept saying Fort Bragg, Fort Bragg. I said, you know, it's not the name, but then I was making a speech. I said, what do you think I should call this place? Call it Fort Bragg. I said, Fort Bragg, how you doing? We won a lot of battles from this place, and that's the way it is. It wasn't even close. When Pete and some of the generals came to see me, I said, not even close.
Followed, of course, by more bragging and a little Donald Trump poetry here for you. Take a listen.
Every inch of this base is steeped in the legacy of those warriors who have said with pride, sir, I trained at Fort Bragg, sir. That was pretty cool. And that is why we restored the historic name of this very, very special place. I don't know if it could be the same place. Fort Bragg is that's the name. And Fort Bragg, it shall always remain. That's never going to be happening again.
Right, Fort Bragg is so in. It's fetch, folks. But of course, no Donald Trump speech in front of the military is ever truly complete until we attack the fake news media and have the troops boo the press.
For a little news for the fake news back there, the fake news. Ladies and gentlemen, look at them all. Oh, what I have to put up with. Fake news. What I have to put up with.
Yes, what the poor victim Donald Trump has to put up with. Fact-checking, historical context, which maybe he could use a bit more of, because after he made the troops boo the press, this is what he had them cheer.
For a little breaking news, we are also going to be restoring the names to Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk, Fort A.P. Hill, and Fort Robert E. Lee. We won a lot of battles out of those forts. It's no time to change. And I'm superstitious, you know, I like to keep it going, right? I'm very superstitious. We want to keep it going. So that's a big story. We just announced that today to you for the first time. They said, why didn't you wait till Saturday? I said, I can't wait.
And then, of course, folks, to cap it all off, the capstone of any Donald Trump speech, talking about his crowd size and comparing it to his predecessor.
I got to talk to my friends here today. This is a record crowd. You know, you never had a crowd this big. That's an honor. You think this crowd would have showed up for Biden? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong.
That is the current president, the current commander-in-chief, goading U.S. troops not only into booing the free press and cheering for Civil War enemies like Robert E. Lee, but also booing a former president, their former commander-in-chief. How incredibly patriotic of Donald Trump. Is it any wonder why nobody in their right minds buys his bullshit about supporting our troops, supporting veterans, or supporting anyone other than himself and his own ego?
At the same time, thousands of former service members were gathering on the National Mall to protest cuts to Veterans Affairs. Listen to what one veteran told our colleague Melanie Zanona.
This is very much about veterans, and it shouldn't be a party-based issue, in my opinion. Yeah.
So you don't see this rally as like an anti-Trump or anti-administration rally? It
can be anti-administration as long as he remains anti-veteran.
And you see Donald Trump in this moment as
very much as anti-veteran.
Thank you for watching, folks. Be sure to stay tuned. We will have all of the coverage of his parade this weekend that you won't want to miss. Help us hit 600,000 subscribers. Thank you to all of you who are watching and supporting us thus far. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I will see you guys in the next one.
I got to talk to my friends here today. This is a record crowd. You know, you never had a crowd this big. That's an honor. You think this crowd would have showed up for Biden? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong.